thing. And then I get something in my eye, which is awesome.
Where? I just have the worst time getting to the live link on YouTube for this.
Yeah, it's not the best.
There we go. I found it.
It's not the worst.
It's true.
Can you imagine if we were trying to do all this on Facebook rooms?
I cannot.
Gross.
Gross. Okay. All right, fire it off here. Why, hello, and welcome to issue 561 of Geek in the City of Radio. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Duran.
I'm one of your other hosts, Binarita.
And I'm your other host, Cable Hashitani.
And this week we are welcoming guest Kristen Mun to the studio. Hi, Kristen.
Hi. Hello.
So I think Cable first, Cable discovered you. What was the story on that, Cable?
So Kristen was looking for a specific game and he emailed us at Guardian Games looking for this game. And I was working curbside that day. And we didn't have the game. We corresponded a little bit, but it was the fact that in her email signature it said violence designer, and I went, wait, what? I want to know what that is. So it's like, okay, I'm just, I want to know more. We should have you guest as a guest on the show. So
that is pretty awesome, because I think online I promoted your appearance as a fight coordinator, but violence designer is so much cooler.
Oh yeah,
way cooler.
Man, it's just like, it's like how like doom scrolling sounds way more metal than it really is, instead of just being incredibly sad and pathetic.
Yes.
So yeah, Kristen, welcome to the show. What is a violence designer?
Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's a fight choreographer. But when I was starting out, there was like a debate going on about whether to bill yourself as a fight choreographer. Because there's a tendency for when people think about a fight choreographer, they come in, they put the fight in, and then they leave. But one of my teachers and mentors was like, when you build a fight, you should be doing so much more than that. Mm-hmm. And so he always built himself as a fight director. So there's like different titles, and they kind of all do the same thing, but for each choreographer or artist, or however you want to identify, it kind of gives a little bit more of like your background. So I like violence designer because I design fights. I talk to the costumer. I want to be there for production meetings to talk about the set. I will change my entire fight if an actor doesn't quite execute the fight the way that I want them to, or like they have skills that I didn't know about. So like, I'm like, oh, you have capoeira skills? Let's take that. So I'll craft a fight and I design a fight depending on who I'm working with. So I like to be billed as a designer because I like to really get involved because one of my biggest pet peeves, especially in live theater, is when a fight looks like a fight's about to happen, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh, okay, we're in this scene and we're doing it. And then it's like, now we're going to fight. And it's like, come on. So I like my fights to just meld seamlessly into the world. So I like to, that's how I came up with them, and like to be billed as a violence designer.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. I like that it sounds cool and also explains the philosophy behind it just with those two words.
Yeah. Because I like to be involved, I like to really get to know like who the actors are and why they're fighting. And, it's so important to read the entire script. Like you don't often, like, not a lot of people know what it takes to like put a play on, but I like to know every single part of it. So like I said, my fight just like, it just falls in, you know, you don't even expect it to happen. Hopefully.
Wow, that's really cool. That kind of makes me think. I mean, unless I'm mistaken, it seems like it's only within the last 15 years or so that fight scenes have been realized as another element of telling the story, not just as, oh, we need to have the fight now.
Great.
Like you watch like an 80s or early 90s action movie or whatever, and the fights, at least American action films or whatever, fight scenes are just fights. Like, oh, here goes Arnold. He's just going to shoot a guy in the face. But like more modern storytelling, and even I've seen it in stage now, the fights are integral to the narrative structure.
Yeah. One of my favorite like modern television fights is the Daredevil hallway fight.
Okay.
So good. Like the fatigue that he's going through as he's fighting. Like, yeah. I feel like a lot of my fight friends were like, have you seen that fight? I was like, yeah.
Everyone was talking about that.
Yeah. That's totally, I agree. Like it's become more a part of the story. And then I feel like with the popularity of Lord of the Rings, suddenly research became really integral, you know, to the look of a fight and like even how it's executed, you know, that like the research was there to really like get that feel of like battle and like tiredness and humanity like within a fight, right? Because I feel like what you're talking about is like this larger than life person who is taking on everybody. And we've kind of taken our superheroes and like our battle scenes and put a little bit of humanity in it, which makes it a little bit more identifiable.
Right. It definitely adds to like the realism aspect of it too, versus like Aaron was saying earlier, like, oh no, now it's time for the fight. No, you want it to be integral and giving it that sort of realistic expectation of like, you know, the longer this goes, the kind of messier it's going to get because everyone's getting tired, everyone's starting to hurt. I think those things work really well together.
Felt that way from the one of the final fight scenes in Atomic Blonde, where she's just going down the stairs. And she's just exhausted the entire time, and she doesn't look good, and no one she's fighting looks good. It's a mess. But it felt so very real.
Yeah, that's how it should be, right? It shouldn't be glorified. It should be like dirty and horrible, and it should take effort and work. Yeah, I agree.
I feel like before we continue about how you design fights, we would be remiss if we didn't ask you about the arsenal that's behind you.
Right. Yes.
And a few times you have moved, it's not just like fencing and a gun. There's like battle axes and you have all manner of death dealing devices back there.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Indeed.
So dork that I'm actually most interested in like how that thing was built to hold it all, because it looks like cardboard.
It is cardboard. I did make it. I made it truly out of necessity. I used to keep all of my swords in cardboard boxes in like an attic space in my old apartment, and my new apartment doesn't have that that space. And so as a practical joke, my partner hoarded a ton of cardboard, and while I was going to be gone for a work trip, was going to create a maze in our 1-bedroom apartment so that when I came home, that's what I come home to. Now, we had a series of unfortunate events, and we had to move out of our apartment quicker than we were expecting. And so this pile of cardboard was like stacking up in the attic, and I was like, what is this pile of cardboard? It's freaking me out. And he was like, don't worry about it. And then when we had to move, I was like, okay, what is the pile of cardboard? What the hell was that? And he was like, well, I was going to make a maze while you're on your work trip. And I was like, that's amazing. I was like, I love that. But he didn't. He didn't get to do it. Then we had a pile of cardboard, and we moved into the new apartment, and I was going to recycle everything. But then I was like, wait a second, where am I going to put all my weapons? I don't have a storage for it. And I've been looking at different like options, which sounds really weird, but was exploring different ways that my mentors and like different universities and schools, like how they stored their weapons, and they just have so much more space, and I didn't. So essentially, it's just layer upon layer of cardboard, all glued together. So it's a beast, and it's like unbreakable. It's so strong. But essentially, it's exactly what I was storing my swords in, except it's more organized. And it took maybe about 2.5 months. And I just kept on going. And it's great. It's exactly what I need. The crazy thing is that it's bigger than the door. So when we move, I don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, no.
I know. I started it in the living room, and then I finished it in the office, and now it will live here forever.
It'll become a selling feature of the apartment now.
Yeah. It's just
like, and this is the weapon storage. The what?
I have ideas. I'm like already like mentally breaking down how you can get it out like in the most like effective way so that it's still workable. But I don't think we're gonna get into that right now because I'll be here all day talking about the logistics of this one piece of furniture.
I know,
the one thing I will say though is don't cut it in half and then like nail it back together later, because someone did that to my box spring and I'm still not over it.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Who did that?
Someone who we don't speak to anymore for unrelated reasons. But
oh shit!
Yeah,
they
helped me move and they cut my box spring in half because they were having too hard of a time getting it up or down the stairs of my apartment. Yeah.
I remember that now, and they swore they could fix it.
Yeah, it looks like garbage, and I've never replaced it, so I just hate it every time I see it. So don't do that.
Okay.
But if you want to talk about how I think you could do that later, we can talk about that later.
Okay. All right. Okay.
She's good at those kind of logistics.
That is true.
And available for hire, people.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start throwing that out there anytime.
So, Kristen, is there a particular theater in town that you work with regularly, or do you kind of work with all of them, or a little bit of both?
Yeah, I kind of work all over the place. I kind of work all over the place. I've worked with a defunct theater and Profile. I've done a couple of shows at Portland Center Stage. Third Rail Repertory. I'm blanking now. But I used to do about like 20 gigs a year. Generally, like give or take. And that included different theaters, universities, and high schools as well. So sometimes they were workshops, and then like even conservatories and stuff. So sometimes they were workshops, sometimes they were shows that I was doing fights for, and then sometimes it was a little bit of both. Last year, 2 years ago, we did, I did She Kills Monsters at Lincoln High School. And so that, do you know this play?
I think I do. I'm trying to remember right now the particulars.
It's so good. It's about essentially two sisters. One sister passes, and it takes place, I think, like back in the 90s. So one sister passes, and the sister that passed has a module, a D&D module, that her older sister wants to play. And when she plays the module, she plays with her sister. So like, magic and mystical reality. She jumps into the game and plays with her sister and her sister's friends. And the hope is that she gets to know her sister a little bit more. So it is a rad play with primarily female roles with so much fighting in it, and spots and selections of like 90s music to like go with the fight. So it's really fun.
That sounds amazing.
Sounds great.
It's really great. It's been produced quite a bit within the past couple of years, and I'm ecstatic anytime I can work with young women, and then like young women that get to fight is just always so good for me. I love it so much. So in those situations where I'm doing like fight choreography, and I offer up a workshop so that everybody gets to fight, you know, because that's kind of like one of the fun things about doing a play is to do stage combat. So I will offer like a workshop, and we'll also do like fight choreography for the show. And that's pretty common. But yeah, that was pre-COVID, and then everything went.
that did that to everybody. Yes.
Yep.
Yep, for sure. Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm assuming that you already had the fight background before you took it with you into theater work, but how did that phase of your career begin, the transitioning into theater?
Totally. I started doing theater in like my junior to senior year of high school. And in my senior year, I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was my senior year. I was in a play, and they were like, "Who wants to fight?" And I was like, "Pick me!" And they were like, "Okay." And so the fight choreographer, towards the end of like the rehearsal process was like, "You're pretty good at this. How old are you?" And I was like, "Well, I'm 18. I'm about to leave for college." And he was like, "You should take this class at University of Hawaii," which is where I'm born and raised. And I did not expect any kind of like fight training or any kind of stage combat to continue throughout my life. I took it because it was theater, and I knew I was going to major in it. And I wanted to just transfer those credits over. I didn't ever think I was going to use it again. I was just like, this was fun. This was great. It was something to do in the summer. But when I went to college at Southern Oregon University. I ended up meeting my first fight mentor in sophomore year because he was a student of my first fight teacher. So like all of that connected. And every single time he would go out to choreograph, he would call me. And he'd be like, "Kristen, I'm going to this high school to choreograph Peter Pan. Do you want to come?" And I would be walking on my way to class, and I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." Ditch class, and I would go and choreograph with him. Because I was like, why not, you know? And he really took me under his wing, and there was just like this full trust that happened. And under his like guidance, I like then became like certified in intermediate stage combat, and then went and then pushed again and did my advanced stage combat. And then by the time I was certified as a teacher, I kind of did this all within the 4 years of my undergrad. So every sort of like spring break or winter break, I would take some time and take some money, and I would go and get certified. So by the time I graduated, I was a certified teacher of stage combat. Also around that time, I requested to be the fight intern at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. And luckily, it just happened to be around the time that the current resident fight director, Jonathan Topo, it was his first year being the resident fight director. And when I wrote in, I was just like, I just want to watch and I'll take notes, and I just want to observe. And he was like, no, you're gonna help me. You know, it was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you have to help. And I was like, okay. So again, it was like this really like instant trust and like such respect, and like, you know, he was just the greatest. He never let me slack off, but he also like, you know, didn't like anytime that I would give him a note, he would be like, okay, now say it out loud. You know, he really empowered me to say what was on my mind, and also to like, you know, in a way, he like taught me how to like take command of a rehearsal room and, you know, be able to trust people and have them trust me. That all happened within my senior year, and by the time I graduated, my first job out of college was the assistant fight choreographer at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. Wow. So it kind of all accidentally happened. Like it all rolled like one into the other, and it sort of took me saying, okay, like why not? You know, let's see where this goes. Let's keep pushing, especially after I got like trained in advanced stage combat. Like the training for it is so much that you're like, you owe it to yourself to like do something with the training you get, because it is a lot. It's just a lot of physicality. That's actually
a really great little journey you've taken, and I wouldn't call it accidental at all. I think that was just like a really great mix of I don't know, being aligned with some really great mentors, it sounds like, but then also like your openness to just keep trying these different things. Like you had an interest in something and you just kept going with it. That's really great.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Kind of the same thing happened in Portland too. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just kind of randomly curious. What years were you at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival?
Sure. Let me see. 09. It was the 08-09 season, 09-010 season.
Okay. I'm just wondering if this is so weird that you might have taught my cousin a fight or something.
Oh yeah.
He's been a resident there for almost 20 years.
Who?
He still does Armando Duran.
Yes.
Yep, that's my cousin.
Yeah, I love Armando.
Oh, he's the best. He's amazing. I'm biased, but yeah, he's amazing. He's the one that got me into theater when I was in high school.
Oh my God.
I saw him play Hamlet when I was in high school.
He the second show I was intern on was Don Quixote. And he was Don Quixote.
He was Don Quixote, yeah. And he looked, oh my God, I'm so bummed I missed that show.
Oh, and he was brilliant in it.
I'm sure.
He was so great.
Sorry, I had to nerd out. I had to ask because I was really curious. I mean, that's not the biggest community, so.
That's an amazing connection, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just the sweetest. Actually, that show was super fun for me because I did a double internship. It was a new script. So the other hat that I wear in the theater world is I'm also a stage manager. So when I was at OSF that year, they had me be the stage management intern and the fight intern. So I would record the fights, and then I would also make the script changes.
I've been a stage manager. That's a lot of work on its own.
Yeah, but I was the intern, you know, so I got to assist in like the hard stuff. And my favorite job was we had to move the donkey, which was a tricycle. It was Doppel, and so we had to take him from the rehearsal room to the stage. And oh man, it always got so much attention when we were outside. We were like, yeah, it's Doppel. It was famous. It was so weird. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, I was curious. I had to know. That's pretty cool. Well, next time I talk to him, I'll tell him you said hi.
If you talk to Armando, you have to call me Mun Mun, because
Mun? Okay.
Everyone at OSF calls me Mun Mun.
All right, I'll remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really sad. There was like so many Kristens and Christines and Chrissies and stuff. And then the resident fight director goes by his last name. So everyone just called me by my last name. And then my really good friend, who was an actor at the time, who I also went to college with, he named me Mun Mun. And then so when he started calling me that, everybody at OSF called me that. So that's really how they know me.
That's definitely a name that will stick with you also. So
yeah, I like it. It's cool. It's very nostalgic for me.
Nice. Bean, did you have a question before I had jumped in? I thought there was something.
No, I thought
Kristen was saying something and I jumped in.
Oh yeah. It was like I would say like my time in Portland sort of felt very natural, like how my fight stuff got started here as well. I ended up leaving OSF because I was like, there's like, I don't know, there was something awesome and fabulous and magical about being the assistant fight choreographer when you're like, what, 22 years old. It was like, I was like, it's too good to be true. So I sort of like kicked myself out of the nest in a way, and like did a year of grad school and then moved to Portland, and primarily because my brother and my sister were here. But I did a show when I moved here. I did a show in 2012, and then I ended up winning an award for it. And I didn't even know I could win an award for a fight. And after that, I just started like getting a lot more work as a fight choreographer, and started really thinking about how I wanted to identify, and moved into like labeling myself as a violence designer. And then the armory back here is I applied for a grant in 2015 from the Portland Civic Theater Guild, and I essentially it was to help me advance my career, and I wrote that I needed an armory, and they were like, oh, okay, here's money for an armory, and I was like, oh, okay, yes, because one of the tough things about being at least a young fight choreographer, a university or a theater, was really just like kind of on my own. And it really is like your own business, Mm-hmm. So one of the walls I kept hitting was every time I would go into choreograph, they'd be like, okay, so we also need to like rent weapons. Like, do you know where to get weapons? And so it was kind of hard, to also find the weapons, rent the weapons, and then it added to their budget as well. So what I really needed, I just needed an armory for myself. And so, so I was like, I just really need to get my own swords. And so in 2015, I applied for the grant and I got it, and I built up the armory. And then the other really cool thing is that I love this theater community so much. They've taken such good care of like me, and I've gotten so many pieces just from people who are like, hey, I don't use this. Do you want it? Like I have a katana that Catlin Gable High School was like, we do not need this. Please take this. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll take that. Yeah, it just grew and grew. And
what was Catlin Gable doing with a katana?
I don't know. Probably set dressing at some point. Or,
every school should have at least one katana. How else are you going to have showdowns? I guess you need two then, but
technically, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, even I have my, handy machete.
Well, our people must always have at least one machete. That's that's the, I mean,
it's not like an outside machete. It's my inside machete.
Right. Yeah. It's like you're baptized, and then they're like, here's your machete.
There you go.
Body of Christ.
That's right.
Yes.
So I'm looking at your armory. Do you have a favorite weapon?
Oh boy. I don't know. I'll pull out the new one.
Ooh.
Oh, can I go?
What was pretty great there is when you looked behind yourself, there was almost this longing look of like, but they are all my children. I love them.
You read me very well. That's pretty true.
Same way Cable looks at his minifigs.
Ooh.
That even sounded just right.
Yep.
This was the new one.
Woo.
So it's a double-handed broadsword. For me, it's like 3, right? And it's made by I consider them the best in the business. This is made by Rogue Steel, and it's an aluminum blade, so it's light. It's light. When I was training, the swords were so heavy, I could not train with a double-handed broadsword. I had to train with a single, and even then, I was like, my arms just rip them off me. It's so heavy. And like, so now, like, now the technology is like these aluminum swords that are just they're so light, and like they sing when they like, you know, clang with each other. It's just so beautiful. But that's awesome. The new one.
Is there actually that kind of reminded me, like we used to do a pirate performance group, and we had some fight training, not as much as we'd wanted, obviously. But one of the things we always had to keep in mind also is that a lot of these prop swords that we had, I mean, they weren't quote combat swords, but prop swords were still expensive. So we were very mindful of like, be careful where you hit, because you don't want to take out chunks of metal. Is that something else you have to work in and teach the actors of like, look, you have to make it look real, but also please don't break them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Part of the training is like where your targets are, and then different parts of the sword. I also like, particularly the people who do like in-depth training with me, I teach them how to clean it, how to maintain it, you know, how to take care of it. I always try to train my fight captain, because no matter what, like they're made of metal. Like they're made of metal. They're gonna hit each other. They're gonna burr, you know, which is like just tiny little like nodules on the blade. And so you gotta take them down, because if you don't, they turn into real weapons, you know. So yeah, a part of that too is like, not just targeting, but how you send your energy as well, right? Because we're in the business of stage combat. So number one, you got to be able to do this fight, I don't know, 8 times a week, you know, 8 times a week at like max. And then sometimes you do it twice a day. So you have to be able to send your energy without exerting too much. So think about it as in like, instead of stopping your energy going into somebody, if I just point past them, I still have like the energy and the strength of like making it look like I'm hitting somebody, except I'm actually, my blade is stopping, right? But I am not stopping it myself, which would put strain on my shoulder and my arm. It would make me really fatigued, right? So part of the training is also not just where are you hitting, but how are you hitting? And then how do we sell the fight too? So it's like, it's all about your stance, about how you're standing, how you're extending, you know, and then also on the other side, right? How do you make your partner look good, right? Again, your stance, how do you defend, right? One of my favorite questions always before I start a fight is this person a good fighter, right? Because I like teaching people how to fight and then teaching them how to look terrible at it. Because I think that is harder. I think it's a much harder, and it's so interesting. It's much more interesting too, you know, to look out of control while you are actually 100% in control.
Right. That actually makes sense, because the idea of like you train someone to fight, but their character is, you know, whatever. They're a butler. In this one scene, they're literally just fighting for their life, and they've never picked up a weapon ever.
Right.
So it's like asking a good actor to pretend to be a bad actor.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
like, right. Or playing drunk, right?
I was gonna say playing drunk is the worst. Yeah.
Means that you're always trying not to be drunk. Yeah.
I have a question from one of our listeners. They're curious. In your personal opinion, what would you consider to be, let's call it your favorite. Like, what do you consider to be like the best movie or TV fight that you've ever seen, and which one would you call the worst?
Oh man. Okay. The best is the classic. Is the best. Is Princess Bride.
Every fight coordinator I know says that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because it will go down in history. It is so good. It is so it combines all of like the awesome parts of like stage combat and fight direction and choreography. It's story, and it's detailed fighting, you know? Like my favorite part about teaching and training is when my students come back to me and they're like, I saw this fight and I was like, that's a double. I was like, they were doing like parry riposte, and I was like, yeah. Because all of the training that we do is rooted in historical movement and fencing, right? It's just we're really obvious about we're terrible fencers, we're terrible fighters, right? Because we'll show you. We could show you that we're going to throw this punch before we throw the punch, right? We're bad fighters, but we're great storytellers. And that fight is an excellent story. You see it once, you're never going to forget it. You know?
I've never heard a fight coordinator or a sword designer not put that one at number one. Like they all do.
Yeah. It will go down in history. And the training that they dedicated to it. I would say that's another thing that is crucial to excellent fight choreography. It's connection between the two actors, even if they're mortal enemies. They need to care about and like love each other a lot, you know, to make it look like they hate each other a lot. And time, you know, if you give me enough time, I can teach anybody to fight, you know. I'll make you look good, but I need the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I want to take classes so bad.
I was gonna say.
I'm looking at the rapiers back there, and I'm like, oh, I want to learn how to do that some more.
Yes. Yeah. The worst fight.
That's always harder, right?
Yeah, I would say that it's not the worst because of the execution. I would say that the filming style, I think it's the first of the new Batman, the new Christian Bale Batman. I think it was the first one where they did like a point of view shot of the fight so that the hits came at the camera, and it kind of made you feel like you were in the fight. And I thought the idea was like interesting. I thought it was interesting. But as a technical theater nerd, I was like, I want to see you throw that punch. I want to see it. Like, pull back. I want to see how you're doing this and how you're putting the pieces together. It felt a little like a smoke screen of like, look at all those things happening. Mm-hmm. So I thought that the concept was interesting, but I wasn't really a fan of it. You know, wasn't really a fan. I like seeing what's happening. That's another great thing about the Princess Bride one, right? Is that you saw footwork, you saw sword work,
acrobatics.
Yeah.
Switching
verbal
left
combating.
to right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was thinking that's part of the reason why at least the first two John Wick movies I appreciate it, because that camera for some of those fight scenes like locks in one position and it lets it play out.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah,
you get to watch it.
Yes. I love the long shots. Oh God, like this one is so corny and so dumb, but like, you know, that the 300 shot where it's just one long shot of him through the battlefield and he's like grabbing the dagger and it just keeps going.
It's a sexy shot.
I love it. That one is definitely just like, okay, that was really good, you guys. That was nice. You just gotta appreciate. That was a lot of.
That's definitely a movie that I like to watch in like 5-minute increments. I'm like, I just want to watch this one fight. I'm gonna watch just this one fight now. Yeah, that's how I'll watch 300 now.
Yes. Yeah.
In 300 5-minute increments.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there a play or even something that maybe hasn't been adapted yet, like maybe a comic or a novel that when you've read it in your mind, you're choreographing the fight, or if there's a play you've always wanted to be like, I want to design the fights for this play?
Oh. Okay, I'll tell you a little secret. In college is when all the hype for the Nickelodeon, The Last Airbender, started like blowing up because, you know, there was going to be a live action movie and there's going to be a live action movie. It was super exciting. I looked up to see if I could audition for Toph because I love that series so much. I appreciate like every single part of it. I love like the different nations in it. And then the live action movie came out and I was like, never mind.
I dodged a bullet there.
Oh.
So I would say that a friend of mine was like, wouldn't it be fun to choreograph sword fights for each nation? And I was like, yeah, that would be really fun. Just inspired by each nation. So that is a project I've been thinking about recently. Let's see. One of my, I would say my second favorite film fight that I have not done on stage, but I know there's a stage adaptation, is Count of Monte Cristo. That's another, and in particular, I enjoy Count of Monte Cristo because of like the story. Of course, I love like just characters that you just get sucked into. And the style is the rapier style. I tend to lean more towards and like I have a lot of fun with that weapon. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what your favorite fighting styles to play with? Is the like rapier dueling, that combat?
Yeah. And then if I can get away with it, if it works, I love rapier and dagger because it's two weapons at once. And so as a choreographer, it's quite challenging in an exciting way because while one weapon is doing one thing, the other weapon is prepping for another thing. So when you choreograph, you have to keep both hands moving. Right? They're very circular and often, okay, so the history of the sword is like broadsword was when like medieval times. So heavy armor, lots of weight. You're trying to break through that armor, so that sword is heavy, right? Then the invention of gunpowder happens and bullets happen and you got to move, right? So then these big heavy weapons and these heavy armors, no good anymore. And dueling turns into a sport, right? So then you go to the Renaissance rapier. Then the rapier and dagger happens, and that's when all technique starts happening. Like how do you kill a man quickly? Do you cut him? Do you thrust him? You know, what kind of forms are we using? They started getting really analytical, right? And they started developing styles. And so that's why I really like that weapon, is because all of a sudden the world opened up and it turned into a dance almost, you know? And I love the fluidity of rapier and dagger. And I love when I was training in it, I loved the challenge because an attack sometimes wasn't an attack. It was a fake out so that my dagger could come and get you, right? So it was really neat to think that way. You had to think faster. You had to think faster and but not hit harder, right? I had to be smarter than you, and I have to be stronger.
That's really cool. I'm actually looking at Denise and seeing how excited she's getting thinking about this fighting.
What?
You kind of have this smile every time she talks about different moves. You're like, I want to do that.
I do actually. I really enjoy the concept of fight choreography, and as you know, I don't really necessarily enjoy a lot of physical activity. There has to be sort of a I don't want to.
You got to make it fun.
I don't really like exercising for the sake of exercising, but like if I'm like doing a thing, you know, like if I were learning choreography, which I happen to really enjoy, fight choreography, dance choreography, I'm always really into. So yes, all of these words are appealing to me right now.
So basically, if you can make your cardio violent, you're all in.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm right there with you. I get it.
Yep.
So I've got a little super nerdy question that I have debated with friends ever since I started playing like D&D in high school. So now I'm going to throw it to you. Okay, who wins, the fully armored European knight or a samurai? We won't get into other details. There's always like, what if they have? I'm like, no, just your traditional armor, broadsword, samurai armor, katana. All right, who's coming out on top, and why?
I think, yeah. I think for the reasons that I like said before, I think it's the samurai. You know, because you don't have the weight, right, of a weapon. And like, here's the thing: I've held a claymore. That is so heavy. It is like you swing that, you're not coming back. You know, you go this way, you gonna keep going. You know, and so I just like, I really think that it's in the samurai, right? Because like they're all about like agility, and then it's just lighter. Because even if I'm thinking about like shogun armor, that armor is still lighter. It's lighter than that heavy stuff. And like the other thing about it is that the katana is made for precision, right? It's a thinner, lighter blade, and that katana can get in between armor. Right. All you need is just one big like upward swing, and then you're right there, you know? So that's my opinion.
All right, cool. I'm going to tell 15-year-old me that he was right.
I mean, I think that's the obvious answer.
I think the reason it's not is there are people who just automatically think, well, more power means, of course, that to win.
Right.
Like if you're just doing the person who powers through things, it's like, well, they're going to win. It's like, no, not against precision.
But just like Kristen said, like armor has like some very vital weak points in it.
Mm-hmm. And kendo is designed to get at the weakest points. Like you're trained to hit head, wrists, and there's a body point. It's like that's what you're striking. And it's just those 3 points over and over and over again.
Is it the groin?
No, it's not.
No, we tend to put a lot of armor around that beam.
Yes.
But yeah, actually just like getting the right angle, you know.
Wow. Well,
that's
that kind
a
of
really short samurai then.
There's this actual documented like confrontation between I think it would have been Richard the Lionheart. He's the one who faced off against Saladin during the Crusades.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this. It's written and like it's not like they can find the records where like they're basically comparing like who's got the better equipment, and like the Europeans like they show out the broadsword and they like swing it down and they break like all these sticks like right in half. And this record of it is like Saladin basically says, well, you've just showed me how strong you are, not your blade. And he takes out a scimitar and like slides paper. It just goes, he's like, this is a sharper blade. I don't need to be strong to take your arm off, was kind of the attitude behind it. So it's kind of neat to hear that stuff. So is there stuff that you've got working on right now? I know we're all kind of locked indoors right now, but is there anything you can be working on right now or you could tell folks about?
I do a little bit of training. So one of the things that happened is one of my students who has been apprenticing with me, he was supposed to choreograph his first show this summer. And so we were behind on training because like all the things happen. And I didn't want to leave him high and dry. So I was like, we're going to train. I was like, we're going to make this work. We're going to train. So we wear baseball gloves and we wear masks the entire time we train. And it's hot and it's uncomfortable, but we take care of each other, you know? And we've continued and kept up that training. Unfortunately, his show got canceled, which happened to everybody. But the good thing that happened is that we sort of created like a very small group where we can like continue training and just kind of and it's so nice because I can be nitpicky and I can be really detailed about their training. Like we go into the history of the blade, and like we talk about like different styles. So that's been really nice and very like therapeutic for me in a way, because it gets me outside. Other than that, I volunteer with Black Resilience Fund, which I know you guys have talked about several times on your show. So I think that's really awesome. But yeah, I volunteer with Black Resilience Fund, and there's some online projects that are coming up, but it looks like as far as like the world of like stage combat and fights, man, we really took a hit, and I really don't know when it's coming back, you know.
Yeah.
The good part about what's happening right now, you know, with this sort of national racial reckoning is there was a document that was produced or put out called the BIPOC Demands for White American Theater. And it kind of outlines, you know, the racial disparities in the industry. And a lot of theater companies are really taking a look at, you know, how they hire, what their seasons look like. And that's really exciting. You know, there's a lot of difficult conversations that are happening. And it's exciting to think that when we do come back, we can come back to something that's even better than it was before. You know, so a lot of my time right now has been spent educating myself. So I've been sort of diving deep in anti-racism and I just took a class on transforming your own racial bias classes because I want to be a facilitator. I want to be, my work as a stage manager and a fight choreographer has always been around creating safe spaces and protecting people, you know, making sure that they're safe. And so kind of diving into being an EDI facilitator, it just seems right and seems natural for me, you know. In 2016, I don't know if you guys heard about, but there was a Chicago Profile Theater there was this big article that came out because they were doing stage combat on stage that was real. So people were really getting hurt on stage, and it was particularly women, and it really upset me and really made me feel quite helpless. So that year I started offering free training in stage combat to women. And since then, I also started doing stage combat in the park, which I hope to get started again. And essentially what I would do is I would just go to a park and I'd like put a blast out on Facebook and say, this is where I'm going to be. And if you want to come and join me, I'll teach you how to fight, you know, because I feel like you can't tell, but I'm 4'9", so I'm petite. And, you know, being a petite woman in this field is, you can imagine, it's just like nobody looks like me and nobody fights like me. And my teachers and mentors, you know, like I said, they never held me back. They never let me like sit back, you know, or make excuses. I remember my very first quarterstaff fight, my partner was so tall. He was so much taller than me. We did a scene from Robin Hood Men in Tights. It was the Little John and Robin Hood scene. It was so fun, you know, and he even like picked me up and put me in his armpit, and I was like, oh my God. And it was like super fun. But when I was doing that fight, every step that he took, I literally had to take 2 steps. And my fight teacher, and he was the nicest guy. Also, he was like the nicest guy. And my fight teacher went up to him and was like, don't hold back on her. And then he came to me and he did, you have to move. And I was like, oh, okay, I have to move. Great, thank you. You know, and because of that training, I could fight anybody, like anybody. My spatial awareness with my partner was really good. I knew where I needed to be. And also because of that, that's the reason why, like, I'm ready to throw a fight away, because I'm making a fight for you. And if somebody put a fight upon me and didn't look like me, then I wouldn't be comfortable. You know, I wouldn't execute that fight exactly the same way. So therefore, I put the same expectations on other people. I change it and make it for you. I went on a rant and I can't remember why.
You're in good company there.
That was an awesome rant, though.
Yeah.
So right now, I kind of dug deep into like EDI and accountability, and just like, and you know, so the transforming racial bias class that I took was with a group of BIPOC women, and so we all exchanged like information, and we're gonna continue that work, and I'm so excited for it. But yeah, so it just like it just feels right to continue to dive into work that creates safe spaces that protects people. Because I don't know when I'm gonna choreograph my next fight again, for the stage anyway. Yeah.
Well, definitely let us know when you get back to, when you start having the moments in the park also, because I will definitely show up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know. I'm like, it's such a bummer. It was so great, and I would just go out and like whoever came, it was like, we're gonna learn, Oh, I remember why I went on the rant. It's because it didn't matter who I was fighting. They couldn't bully me. They just couldn't, because I knew how a good fight was executed. I would advocate for myself. I'd be like, that's too, like, I don't know if it's a choke or whatever. I'd be like, that's too tight. You should do it this way instead. And I know instantly how to fix it. I'd advocate for myself. And so I wanted to pass that training on to other women, especially in the theater world, especially young women, because like young artists, and like, at least even for me, like I didn't want to upset anybody, I didn't want to make any enemies, and like wanted to like do what I'm told. But when it came to stage combat, you couldn't tell me I was wrong. You just couldn't, because I knew what was right. And it wasn't about ego, and it wasn't about like being better than anybody. It was just about knowledge, and like, because I was well trained, because I had the knowledge. And so I was like, this is something that I have that I can do. So I need to pass this on.
That's a really, really important skill, because like, especially as a woman, especially as like if you're a small statured person, and especially if you're in a male dominated arena, it really never seems to matter how well educated or how well versed in a situation you might be, or in the content. Someone is always a guy is always going to be there to tell you they know more than you. And the reason they get away with it is because girls are supposed to be nice, and we'll just step back and let the person convince everybody that they know more. And that's probably why our society is such garbage right now, because a bunch of idiots are like, I know what I'm doing and you don't. So I really appreciate that you are working to kind of spread the skill of standing your ground, and establishing like, I'm an expert in this, so you need to listen to me.
Yeah, and like, that's the magic too about stage combat, is that the person, usually when you watch stage combat, the person who we call like the volunteer or the receiver of the violence or the action is in control. Like, when it's done right, that person is driving all of the action. Like, it's one of those like weird things, but like, I loved being the person who died. I loved it. It was like, who's gonna die in this one? And I was like, pick me, and I would, because I love to sell it, and it is one of those things where you realize, like, so I was training in the park with one of my friends, and he's a guy, and we were doing stage combat, and we really upset this family, and they had to like move away because it's not really great to watch a guy hit a girl when you have kids around, and you have to be responsible for that, you know. And like, so like I recognize like when we train in the park, we get people standing and staring at us all the time, you know, and it just is like, it does attract that kind of attention, but there's so much power in that. There's so much power in the person who is being attacked is actually in control, you know, is actually in control of that action. They are making you look good or terrible or however that you need to look, you know. But yeah, that's the part that made me so angry, is like this thing that I love and that I really like when I go and I get to teach, you know, at the college, at the high school, at the university, and I get those young women and I put swords in their hands and I show them how to fight. It is so empowering, you know, it is so empowering. Before I started fight training, I would have a lot of like running dreams or like fighting dreams where like punches wouldn't land, you know? And then suddenly when I started doing stage combat, I had a context and a reference of like what this could be or what it could look like. And I started fighting back in my dreams. And I was like, that's pretty powerful. You know, I'm not afraid to like throw a hit. Okay, and I don't ever want to be in a real fight. Like, let me be clear. Like I'm very much a pacifist, and I loathe violence, but I love stage combat.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Almost everyone I know that is one way or another involved in like fighting as part of their career, whether it's stage combat or professionally, they all go out of their way to like avoid fights as often as possible. They're like, no, I know what it can do. It's not fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Kristen, it was really awesome having you on. We definitely want to get your contact info later for when you're able to start doing events and stuff, or even distance small events or whatever. So
absolutely. I have a swashbuckling class that I think you would be interested in.
Ooh.
Yes.
That's the one thing I never got really good at because reasons.
Didn't do it.
Yeah.
We can spill that tea off the air.
Yeah. It's related to box springs. Sorry.
Anyway.
But thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Yeah.
Thank
Is
you.
there a place people
coming
can
on.
follow you? What's your website again?
I have a Wix website, but it's not quite useful right now because I used to use it for like park trainings and things like that. I'm also on Facebook, and I'm okay. Like, I'm on Facebook when I want to be.
Yeah.
You know. But my profile I think is public, and I also have like a K-Mun fights page as well.
Cool. We'll make sure to list that one at least for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, Kristen, it was awesome talking to you. I'm so glad you popped into Guardian, and I'm sorry they didn't have the game you wanted, but it worked out for us.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too.
Thanks
Thanks a lot. Stay safe. That was awesome.
She is a treat.
And looking back at her stories now, looking into finding her to interview seems to work with her timeline of how things just happened for her.
That is true. Yeah.
It's like,
She's got like Domino's mutant power. It just kind of works out.
It's a hell of a thing.
It's a hell of a thing. That's right.
She seems like a really, really good person, so it could just be karma.
That's true. Norm, sorry we didn't get to your last question there. About
I wasn't going to ask that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Norm, we love you, but we're not going to ask the professional.
Every now and then I have to draw the line.
I do want to say I pulled up She Kills Monsters, and man, that is a play that I want to watch now.
It sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
Drama comedy by Ki Nguyen. Came out in 2011.
Ah,
Yeah.
check that out somehow.
Also, talking to her made me think that I want to get like her and Mimi Chen on a podcast together. They could just swap fight coordination stories.
Right.
Yeah.
Just put them on a Zoom call together.
And just watch them. And I was like, okay, you two, nerd out for 2 hours. We'll just sit back and watch. And that's exactly what would happen.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, if we have a few minutes left,
We do.
you guys want to talk about, you know what?
Yeah, we can talk about Lower Decks.
All right.
I do.
Hold on.
Apologies. I'm going to be distracted for a second.
Uh-oh.
Do we need a moment?
Good times in downtown again?
It sounded like an explosion, but I've got headphones on.
Right.
Well, for once, I didn't hear it coming through your mic. So.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, if it helps, it didn't seem all that loud from our end because we didn't hear anything. I mean,
It was loud enough to wake up Irma.
and Irma is a little nervous Nelly, so
Yeah.
She's been in my lap the entire time.
Right.
Like, oh, so Irma's podcasting today. Okay.
Yeah. So really quick, if you haven't seen Lower Decks, end the show now. Thanks for listening.
Talk to you next week.
Screw Ted Wheeler, resign.
Yeah. All those things.
All those
The
things.
usual.
But here we go. Yeah, Lower Decks, man.
So when I mentioned the show to Merrick, I'm like, oh, I've got to watch this new Star Trek show. It starts this Thursday. And she's like, oh, what is it? And it's like, well, it's an animated half-hour comedy. And she's like, yeah, and I'm gonna pass on this one. And then I sat down on Thursday. She's like, I'll watch this first one with you before I go off and go do work. And like, we were laughing our asses off inside of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that just stayed that way for the rest of the episode.
It is consistently funny. It starts off strong, and I don't feel like it has any like weak like slumps in the episode.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, not all the jokes landed for me, but for being for essentially being a season premiere or a pilot, like it landed really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like it played really well for me.
I think the strength of the series is behind the lead character of Ensign Mariner.
The voice actor, Tawny Newsome.
Yeah. If that character was not, like, everything about her character says comedy, but it also has all of the gravitas of classic Trek characters that we love.
Yeah.
Well, let's back up a little bit. I think part of what makes the show so funny is it is extremely self-aware.
Yes.
You've got the Batleth scene. You've got the way Mariner talks shit about all of like the bridge people, essentially, like the high command of the
crew.
ship.
Yep.
Right.
Like everything she says is basically poking fun at an entire franchise worth of like plot holes and just like things that never really made a lot of sense, but it's canon because it's canon.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say she was also, in my opinion, the best part about the Netflix series Space Force.
Oh, okay. I haven't watched Space Force, so
It's okay.
Oh my god, I didn't realize it was the same actress.
Yeah, no, she's Captain Angela.
I enjoyed
Captain
that
Angela
series way more than I thought I would.
Yeah, same here. Once I realized it wasn't all satire, when it was going to be more serious at times, then I was able to enjoy it more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, she's my favorite part of that series. And this is kind of like just a jokier version of that character in a weird way. And I like that, like, if you're not a Trek fan, like, I guess you'll like some of the jokes, but this is definitely an animated comedy made for Trek fans, and some Trek fans just take their shit way too seriously. And like, I was one of them for a long time, and I was like, why the fuck? Just chill the fuck out. All right.
yeah. And I think that's the important growth in being a fan of this franchise at all, is learning to let other people do new things with it that we may or may not like initially, and allowing, someone's got to take the piss out of it, because it's over 30 years old.
Older than that, man.
Is it?
It's pushing 60.
Oh,
you're right. You're right.
Oh, I thought I just assumed Cable was talking about like next gen specifically.
Oh, well, that's 30. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we're always going to have shows like Picard and Discovery that will tackle serious stuff and we'll have serious things, but try to have some fun with it too. In a weird way, part of me thought of the Lovecraft community, which is a weird way to get here. Those are also people, as a rule, that take that shit way too seriously. And if you dare do a satire or a parody, you're looked at with like, how dare you? Like, really? Come on. Stop it.
You have, like, if you're not going to take a long, hard look and analyze your love of Lovecraftian lore and go, oh, wait, all of this part is racist and this part is sexist, and like we can excise all of that, and this is the core of what he was trying to do.
I'm trying to think if there's any like license work or franchise, anything that is like too sacred for me to like not be able to appreciate or allow room for a comedy version of it.
I wonder if it helped because by your own admission, like you didn't really grow up with this stuff. You're like, you used to say you're a late bloomer geek.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it's because you didn't grow up with it, that it wasn't this such important part of your childhood.
But there are other things that I've grown up with, and
Sure.
they are not, verboten from being made fun of.
Right. That's good. But yeah, I thought they introduced the characters pretty well. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
I'm wondering, I mean, we're probably not going to get a lot of like, I'm guessing it's going to be very episodic. There's not going to be a lot of like overrunning arcs other than her mother wanting her to be a quote, good Starfleet officer,
I don't know that that's true.
I hope so. I mean,
I'm with Cable because they've already hinted at like some stuff that has happened in the past.
Right.
Which leads one to assume it's going to be brought up again.
They are doing that thing. To me, it felt the most like the Orville, except they actually get to tell Star Trek jokes within the show because it's a Star Trek show.
Yes.
Instead of making, metaphors and other analogies.
Right.
It's like they can actually, no, we are Star Trek. We can make the Star Trek jokes.
Right.
I'm also curious if this show would... obviously we love it, but like, we were talking about how there was a time where like it was not going to be okay for a Star Trek fan to watch something where they're making fun of Star Trek. If something like this had been developed before the Orville had existed, do you think people would receive it the same way?
No, I think they'd still receive it the same way that they're receiving it now. Like, I think the people who would like it or who do like it would still like it. And I think the people who don't like it are still going to sit there with that giant stick up their butt.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with Cable. I think there are people that just feel like, apart from like your random Trouble with Tribbles episodes or a few things on DS9, Trek is not allowed to be funny. And there's going to be no convincing of those folks, I guess. Maybe one day, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But, also, the Lower Decks era uniforms have quickly become one of my favorite looks. They're cool looking.
They're good uniforms. Like, it's a solid design.
And I know that's also Picard flashback era uniforms also.
Yeah, because it takes place 10 years before Picard.
I think a little more than that because there is still Romulus. So I think
I could have sworn they mentioned Picard and some of the crew in the episode. Worf. They talked about Worf.
Yeah, I think it's.
But all of the Picard though takes place 30 years after TNG. So if you're still anywhere in that timeline,
I'm sorry, I must have misheard.
I mean, I don't know if they've given specific dates on it. The one thing they have said is that the events of 2009 Trek have not happened yet. So there is still a Romulus, but it is obviously post Nemesis.
Okay.
But that there is still a Romulus. So, and speaking of Romulus, that opening credit sequence with all the Romulan warbirds shooting at the Borg ship and and their ship going, no, let's turn around.
I rewatched it today, and they do shoot at the Borg cube once before they turn around and double back.
Yeah,
for whatever that's worth.
I need to rewatch the episode again because there was so much to take in, and
jokes fly fast.
Oh man, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Like once it was the giant spider suckling on the other ensign. Like I missed so many jokes after that.
Yeah, that was pretty
aside
rapid
from,
fire.
Don't stun her, it'll ruin her milk. I told you.
Also is, and again, not counting the Kelvin timeline, I think Ensign Tendi is the first on-camera canon Orion serving in Starfleet we've ever seen.
Is that right?
Yes.
I think she is. Yeah. And I've always wanted to see that and don't be like, well, Aaron, because you like them, like you like the green skin. That's not it. I've always liked the idea that Orions aren't like if they're able to, get out of their culture, Starfleet, even though they're quote an enemy, Starfleet will take anybody.
See, and that was the thing that I looked at and went, okay, this still just raises more questions than it answers. Because I know Kurtzman is involved. Mm-hmm. He's one of the executive producers, which means, like, I automatically feel like we like the Green Woman. Let's make sure to have one of them on the show. But every time you do that, you have that unanswered question of like, but the Orion Syndicate. It's like you are, whether you know it or not, you are paving the way for any future Star Trek episode is going to have the episode where they start going, so we have a number of Orion officers now. We should probably think about doing something about, this wholesale slavery thing that the Orion Syndicate does.
That I am really curious to see Trek tackle that one day. And boy, is that going to be a bumpy road for them, because especially TNG gets attacked a lot for like its neoliberal tendencies.
Sure.
And rightly so. But like how long could a galactic wide organization dedicated to preserving freedom for all sentient life, how long are they going to like keep looking at the Syndicate and being like, it's here, we're not going to get involved. But then also like be quasi okay with like the Federation will deal with the Ferengi alliance. Well, the Ferengi clearly have no problem. They trade with the Orion Syndicate because to them it's just, that's your culture, profit loss, whatever. Like how long before Starfleet could be like, or the Federation's like, slavery bad, and we're going to force your hand now. End the slave trade or we force it.
And that's the other thing is we know that the direction that the Ferengi were headed at the end of Deep Space Nine was socialism and not abject
it's true
capitalism. They may go, oh, we should probably stop dealing with the Orions.
Yeah.
Like there are so many, oh man, like if Trek has ever wanted a real life, it's like, what do we use as an analogy for the Black Lives Matter movement? There you go. Go tackle the Orion Syndicate. Go tackle the Orion slave trade.
Yeah.
But do you guys think that that's going to happen on the animated comedy show?
No, I don't. No. But I think that is a perfect, like, Picard is a perfect playing ground for that. Strange New Worlds is going to be perfect for, well, maybe not Strange New Worlds because they're still further back.
They're further back, and the Pike we're going to get in Strange New Worlds is the Pike that is a couple years now removed from the cage, but I mean, remember in the cage, he's literally talking to the doctor after losing more crew members on the planet, saying like, maybe I'm done doing this. Maybe I should become a slave trader with the Orion. Like he flat out says like, maybe that'll be a fun job.
Yep.
And that's not the Pike we're going to get now. I mean, clearly not. But.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a little retconning of that.
Yeah, we are.
But Discovery, granted, we're going to actually watch another episode of season 2, so we'll be all caught up by the time season 3 hits.
Oh, you haven't watched all of season 2 yet?
No.
Oh, how far are you?
We have just, I think the episode we just watched was the Return to Talos.
Okay.
Where Spock gets his mind back.
Right. I was so giddy when I recognized the background, the wind sound effect. I was like, oh, it's the wind sound effect. And it was like, really, out of everything, that's what got you giddy.
Except it's not the wind, it's the plants.
It's the plants. That's right.
Yep.
They sing.
When the wind passes through them. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And she did the whole, she grabs the leaf and it stops singing and then lets it go again. I'm like, thank you. Thank you for doing that.
And she has the Spock smile.
Mm-hmm. Oh. I do like where the show is going. I know 2 of the spoilers for season 2, which I'm not going to say aloud because Merrick's in earshot and she doesn't know them. Hi, dog. But like, one is an identity thing, and the other is where the season ends. So but like, it's still, there's so much more I don't know that I'm learning. Like, I'm not quite sure how I feel about confident, no fear Saru.
That's gonna come out more.
That feels like a recipe for danger.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm jumping back to Lower Decks a little bit. I can already tell I'm going to love Dr. Katana.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. They're fun.
Cranky kitty doctor.
Yeah, that's right. Here, hold this. Don't pass out.
Just keep pumping it. The cast of characters they've assembled is pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's Mariner, Blomler, Tendi, and Rutherford, I think, are our 4 Lower Decks characters.
Yeah, those are our main ones. And then you've got, like, the bridge crew. I do like, I think it was a day after the episode, the series premiered. Rebecca Romaine, like, got on Twitter and said, yes, I know my husband's also a commander, but I am still the only number 1.
Nice.
Wait, who is she married to?
Jerry O'Connell.
Jerry O'Connell.
Processing.
Talk about the awkward, nerdy kid just kind of coming into his own.
What is he on? What does he do?
He did the sci-fi series Sliders.
Oh, yep. I never saw that one.
Yeah.
I was never going to get there.
But yeah, on Lower Decks, he's Commander Jack Ransom.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Such a good name for Jack Ransom.
I love how, again, like a lot of the higher ups are like just like total bros. Mm-hmm. Like literally chest bumping and like, yeah, we're going to go to the bar after work. Woo! Work hard, play hard.
Yeah. I mean, even the captain, she's not like a bro, obviously, but she's still very much she's Starfleet.
It's actually just the way Mariner said, where she was like, like the bridge crew, like the higher command, all they really care about, all they ever talk about is, directives and legacies and this and that. And I think that like you get a little bit of that from the captain character already.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yet at the same time, the confusing thing about Mariner is she gives that speech to Bulmer about like, I know what I'm talking about. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. I've fought a Yeti in a Klingon prison for my own shoes. And there was no reason. He was just being a dick. I know what I'm talking about. And it was that
I'm always right.
I'm like, oh, in 5 years, she's sitting center seat on the bridge of her own ship.
Yeah.
Because she's 100% Captain material.
Right. Well,
100%.
They imply that she's been demoted.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why she's basically like on parole with her mom.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Because she has the exact attitude as we have seen with Picard, with Cisco, with Janeway, with Archer, with Kirk, both of them. And with Pike.
Bunch of cowboys.
They are. All of them. They're all mavericks.
Mm-hmm.
And their road to the captain's chair was not a straight line, ever.
Right.
It was a huge bumpy road.
She does actually really give off like really young Kirk vibes.
Mm-hmm.
That's even the way like Kirk talked about himself a few times in TOS about him being when he was an ensign or a lieutenant, how he was just basically a pain in the ass.
Yep.
you know, a gifted pain in the ass, but still a pain in the ass, you know.
Whereas Bulmer comes across as Lieutenant Barclay, only with a stitch more confidence.
Right. Harsh.
Yeah.
Well, he does have his secret captain's logs.
Yep.
But again, meanwhile, like her mom, Mariner's mom, you can tell that like she makes her decisions based on optics.
Yeah.
At that point, yeah. But we don't know how she got to the captain's chair either.
That's true, but she's not the captain of an Enterprise. She's the captain of the Cerritos. You know, first in line to be second in line.
Yeah. And also, speaking of the Cerritos, I don't know if this is what they're gonna do for this show all the time, but I love that they have made the Cerritos, that ship design, canon. It's one of the many like background kit bash ships that they had to make for like. So basically, when they wanted to show wreckage at the end of like Best of Both Worlds or in the background of the Dominion War, they would like, there's a saucer section here. Here's some nacelle here. It looks ugly, yeah, but it's gonna be in the back of the screen. Like no one's gonna see this. I kind of hope, barring any encounters with like an Excelsior class or, you know, ships we know, I kind of want to see like the stuff that Starfleet shipyards kind of crank out really fast, you know, because like the Sovereign class, that must take a while to build. And the Excelsior, you know, I mean, the Galaxy class, these are all big ships take a lot of time. But You know what? We got this generic saucer section that we can just crank out in a week, and you know we know how good time tested nacelles work. Just plug them in, give it a navigation deflector, and off it goes. You know? It's not gonna be any deep space. It's just gonna be, you know, running back and forth.
Yep.
Just around the block.
Sovereign class, it takes 2.5 years to build one, and there's only 2 in the entire fleet. Miranda class takes 6 months and an extra week,
right,
for pinstriping, and that's why there are 52 of them in the fleet.
For pinstriping.
Yeah. That's why, you know, America's got, you know, maybe half a dozen aircraft carriers where we got a fuck ton of frigates. You just crank them suckers out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're the VW bug.
Ooh.
It's the Honda. No, not that. Don't you make fun of it.
I'm like, I know. It's just a weird. It's a weird comparison to be making right now.
Or it's like a Honda. It's like a Civic.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
There you go.
They don't really.
The Cerritos is the Honda Civic of Starfleet.
Yeah.
Oh, Norm said a Camry, the USS Camry.
Right. Oh,
that's also good.
That's also good. Yeah.
Well, I for one am looking forward to more Lower Decks.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
Seconded.
I'm excited. That just kicks off it just kicks off 23 weeks of new Star Trek every week.
I know.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
Which means Discovery is going to be 13 episodes. We now know for sure.
Yes, because this is only 10 episodes.
Is that going to be the longest season they've done so far?
No, actually. I think that's what they've been averaging is 13, now that I say it.
Why was I thinking 10 each for the first 2 seasons?
I don't know. I think Picard was 10?
Picard was 10 episodes.
10 episodes. Look, I'd rather have like a tight 13 than like, you know, 23 or 26 where like only a third of them are really good. Like, I'd rather the team focus on creating 10 to 13 really solid episodes. That's good. Go for that BBC model.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's a bummer when it all runs out, but it's tight. You're not like wasting a week on a filler episode that doesn't really add much to the story.
Right.
I'm fine with it.
I mean, if it wasn't for COVID, they'd probably be in pre-production for Strange New Worlds right now. I mean, eventually, assuming we don't all fucking die, like there will eventually become a time where there will always be some kind of Trek in production and on the air, and I would be so happy.
So yeah, that's got to be a strange feeling, right?
That hasn't happened since the 80s.
80s
and 90s.
Yeah, well, that's true.
TNG.
Yeah, because we went from TNG to
Voyager.
DS9 to Voyager.
So yeah, when was the overlap between TNG, Voyager, and DS9?
So TNG and Voyager never overlapped. So.
Oh, I'm sorry, TS9.
But DS9 overlapped both.
Yeah,
that's what I meant.
Yeah, DS9 never got to stand on its own ever.
DS9 started in the 4th year of TNG.
Yeah.
Because the whole point was to have Sisko and Picard in the same room. Picard goes, "It's a pleasure to meet you." And Sisko goes, "We met once. Wolf 359, you killed my wife. Fuck you."
I mean, he didn't quite mean it that way.
1993.
Yeah, he did.
I think Sisko's better than that. I think Sisko understood that Picard was not in control of his functions.
I don't believe that that's true for season 1 Sisko. He 100% meant "fuck you, Picard." He was still angry about it.
You can be objective about a lot of things, but if you're still sensitive, which Sisko was for a number of years, about the death of your wife, he meant it. He meant what he said.
I think season 3 and beyond Sisko had made peace with it. But season 1, he was still angry.
I'll rewatch.
By the time he gets to the "I can live with it" moment, then we'll talk.
Oh well, shit! That's season 6.
Yeah, I think so. This is tangentially related to Star Trek. At some point, I think we're all going to have to watch the movie Unbelievable and report back.
Keep talking.
What's that one?
Look it up on IMDb. It is Snoop Dogg and the cast of every Star Trek ever.
Is it a miniseries? Oh, no. I'm sorry. That's a different.
It's Unbelievable with 5 exclamation points.
What the shit is that? Wait, is it dolls?
I'm not finding it.
Just one doll.
Snoop Dogg?
Unbelievable.
2018 film.
I think I did hear. Yeah, this does have everyone.
This is 2020. Yeah, it's Garrett Wong, Chase Masterson, Tim Russ, Nichelle Nichols, Robert Picardo, Marina Sirtis, Michael Dorn, Nana Visitor, Walter Koenig, Linda Park, Connor Tenier. It goes on and on and on and on and on. It is nuts.
But it's not a...
It has nothing to do with Trek.
No.
It looks like a Team America.
That's just the one character.
Right.
Just that one puppet.
Yeah, that puppet is Captain Kirk Smallwood. Stillwood.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't.
My mind is a little bit blown right now.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's
he must have loved that because he is such a big Trek nerd.
Snoop Dogg?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it has a 4.0 as its rating.
Whatever.
Which means it is hot garbage, but oh man, it's going to be fun hot garbage.
Oh yeah, we should put that on our to-do list.
Check it out. And then something else we are going to do, because I know we talked about it off the air. Eventually we'll do this. We got to figure out how. Is I'm going to run that Kobayashi Maru adventure on the show live.
Oh yes.
But that's where we're going to need listeners to help out. We'll have like a raffle or some shit.
Well, we should probably plan the particulars of that out first.
Yeah, we shouldn't talk about details on the air because we're going to get nothing like, I want to play.
Although it's okay to get interest early on.
It's true. Well, should we wrap up the show this week?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah. Again, huge thanks to Kristen Mun. Mun.
That's fascinating that she knows your cousin.
What a small world.
The moment she mentioned that she had done Fight Court, that's why I was like, what years? Because he's been there. God, I think he started in like 2000, and he had to take a few years off for a medical issue, but he's still down there.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know what he's doing right now because there's nothing going on, but yeah.
And she seemed young. I couldn't get not that it was important, but I was just trying to like get a line on her age. And I'm guessing she's like younger than you guys, or no, that's wrong. I think she's younger than me not by a lot. So she's had a busy career in a seemingly short amount of time.
Yeah, I think she's probably in her early 30s at the oldest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was awesome.
Yep.
Yes.
Next week we might have another guest. We just say it. I'm going to ask Greg if he can pop on again next week.
Right.
Because we did kind of talk about him just being monthly from now on instead of just like whatever you want. We're just going to tell him.
Right. I think the key thing is like we have to like give him a date.
Right.
So.
I know we were going to ask him. I think last time we said, hey, next time you come on, you can tell us how you would fix the DC comics. But that seems like a really cruel question to ask right now.
That does. That's.
So all right, we'll see how that goes. Jeez.
Yeah. That one's a downer.
This is what happens when you work in an industry where you love what you do, but it's owned by people that have no idea what you do.
Mm-hmm. Or care.
Yeah,
Agreed.
they just see IP farms. Anyway, I don't want to end it on a downer like that, so let's just end it on it was a good show. Thanks, Kristen.
Yay!
I'm gonna go bottle mead tonight now.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go watch Discovery.
Nice.
Oh, nice. I should rewatch season 2 just for the hell of it again.
I think I'm going to before the next one starts.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, I'm Aaron Duran.
I'm Binarita.
I'm Cable Hashtani.
We will speak to everybody next week. Ted Wheeler, you must resign.